The legitimate older sister was dissatisfied that Shen Zhaoyuan once again neglected her because of official duties, and decided to make him suffer to the core. She squeezed my hand, her eyes flashing with nearly frenzied excitement. As long as I die once in front of him, he will surely never place anything above me again. Huiyun, you will help me, right? She carefully devised a plan to fake a miscarriage. When Shen Zhaoyuan rushed back from the yamen, he only saw the physician shake his head helplessly and tell him to say a few words to the legitimate older sister one last time. The legitimate older sister left 3 final words. First, she did not regret bearing Shen Zhaoyuan's child, even if she died with no regrets. Second, she wanted Shen Zhaoyuan to take me as a widowed wife. Only if I cared for our daughter Chang'e would she be at ease. Third, she would always love him, and never be forgotten. Shen Zhaoyuan was indeed, as she had expected, utterly heartbroken. Even if he took me into his household as his wife, he coldly warned me that his heart belonged only to the legitimate older sister, and told me not to covet something that did not belong to me. I behaved myself, attentively cared for Chang'e, managed the household's affairs, and everything was in order. Gradually, Shen Zhaoyuan's gaze at me became hazy, and Chang'e grew more dependent on me. When the legitimate elder sister could no longer restrain herself and reappeared, she did not receive the joyful surround she had expected. Everyone around her instinctively directed their eyes toward me. My legitimate older sister had always hoped her married life would be like our father's with our stepmother, a husband who dotes on her and always puts his wife first. After marrying Shen Zhaoyuan, on their wedding night she demanded he take no concubines, that he think of her and miss her every day, and obey her in all things. Shen Zhaoyuan smiled at his new wife and granted every request. They were inseparable for a time, and after giving birth to Chang'e, my sister became increasingly insecure. She felt Shen Zhaoyuan loved Chang'e more than he loved her, and even suspected that when he stayed out late he was keeping company with young, beautiful girls. She kept asking me, "Feiyun, do I look any different from before I had Chang'e?" I would always lower my eyes and answer earnestly, "Miss, your grace is unchanged. She was my sister, and I was merely her maid." Hearing my reply, Shu Yian breathed a sigh of relief, then grew even angrier. "But my husband comes home later and later. Does he think I'm no longer as beautiful as before?" I said, "Young master seems to be up for a promotion lately and has been assigned many tasks. It's normal for him to be busier." The sharp slap rang out suddenly. My cheek burned with a hot sting. Shu Yian looked at me with a half smile, half sneer. "You know so much about the son-in-law's affairs, Feiyun. Do you still not understand your place?" I knelt at once. "This servant has always remembered that this life was given by Miss and Madam. I speak for the son-in-law because I know his heart belongs only to Miss. I do not wish to see Miss and him grow apart." She leaned on the slanted couch, picking at her nails for a moment. "Get up, I know you're loyal, which is why I value you. Don't misunderstand my intentions." I kept my head bowed and replied, "This servant knows clearly and always remembers Mrs. Kindness." A maid outside reported that Shen Zhaoyuan had returned. Shu Yian went out to greet him joyfully, and only then did I rise from the floor. The baby Chang'e in the cradle had been startled awake and began to cry. Shen Zhaoyuan entered and, following the sound, went straight to the cradle, while Shu Yian, left behind, clutched the handkerchief in his hand tightly. Shen Zhaoyuan cupped his hands and breathed on them, warming them before lifting Chang'e. "Ye knows daddy's come back, doesn't she?" Shu Yian snorted lightly. "You don't see me for a day and you don't miss me. Your mind is full of Ye." Shen Zhaoyuan smiled warmly, handed Chang'e into my arms, and turned to draw Shu Yian into an embrace. "Of course I miss you. Thinking of Madam at home is what made me eager to return." He carried Shu Yian into the inner chamber while I soothed Chang'e in the partition. Chang'e was very good. After having his diaper changed and being fed at the wet nurse, he fell into a deep sleep again. The laughter in the inner room gradually quieted down. The next day, Shen Zhaoyuan went to court. Shu Yian personally dressed him and tied his hair, not allowing the maidservants to interfere. Before parting, the two lingered for quite a while, reluctant to separate. After Shen Zhaoyuan left, Shu Yian was in high spirits. He rewarded me with a hairpin and pityingly stroked my cheek. "I was a bit heavy-handed yesterday. But it was only because I can't bear to see you become estranged from me. Feiyun, you won't hold it against me, will you? A slap followed by a candid date. It was a tactic she had used for years. She dug out an ointment and handed it to me. This ointment works well, apply it morning and night. Although your looks are plain, merely tidy, it would be a shame if they were marred, and your sister would be distressed. I took the ointment gratefully. There was a hint of contempt in her smile as she waved me downstairs to rest. Clutching the ointment, I turned and left the room, the curve at the corner of my mouth unchanged too. When Chang'e was 3, Shen Zhaoyuan had already attained the 5th rank. Everyone who met him would praise him as having boundless prospects. Correspondingly, he grew increasingly busy. His superiors deliberately groomed him, assigning him to the Dali Temple to handle affairs and accumulate merits. He was so swamped with work at the Dali Temple that sometimes he even spent several consecutive nights at the office. Xu Yian grew more and more restless. She paced back and forth under the eaves all day long, her eyes anxiously fixed in the direction of any arrivals, and she nagged me, Feiyun, something's not right. Father has never been willing to go so long without visiting mother. Do you think husband has someone on the side? The wet nurse was holding Chang'e in the courtyard to watch the flowers when Xu Yian saw them. She said again, resentfully, it must be that my husband doesn't love me enough. Even though mother gave birth to me, father never treated mother coldly. Could it be that my husband is angry because I didn't give him a son? Yet he seems to dote on Chang'e. She frowned slightly. That face, 7 parts similar to the legitimate mother's, was enough to make one dazed. The legitimate mother was a rare beauty, both resourceful and good-looking. But even if father wanted to keep the legitimate mother close to his heart, it didn't stop him from forcing my mother after drinking. Each year there were always a few maidservants, like my mother, sent away by the legitimate mother. Xu Yian mouthed how much her father loved the lawful wife, but inside she was very afraid that Shen Zhaoyuan would not be like her father, and afraid that he would be. I draped a cloak over her and gently comforted her. Miss, you're overthinking. Worrying yourself sick will only make Guy worry. Xu Yian was startled for a moment after that. She began to fall ill. To prevent being found out, she opened the window in the middle of the night, and the night wind howled in the early morning. She developed a headache. A servant went to the Dali Temple to inform Shen Zhaoyuan, and in the afternoon he took leave and returned home. Xu Yian, haggard and weak, nestled in Shen Zhaoyuan's arms. It's my fault for being useless, and it's making you worry enough to come back to see me. Shen Zhaoyuan fed her medicine tenderly. You are my wife. It is only right that I take care of you. I feel very guilty for not being able to come home to see you these past days. Don't worry, rest well and recover. I'll stay home with you. After a day like this, perhaps because having Shen Zhaoyuan by her side felt so good, her complexion improved quickly. The next day, Shen Zhaoyuan returned to the Dali Temple with half a day's work left unattended. He was even busier and couldn't make it home. On the rare days off, Xu Yian cherished even more the time spent with him. Yet Xu Yian's health gradually declined. When Shen Zhaoyuan couldn't go home because of handling cases, he would be notified once every 10 days to half a month. At first he would take leave to come back, but later, after being reproached by his superiors, he returned with a frosty expression on his face. Everyone in the capital knew that Chief Justice Shen did not care for officialdom, loved his wife as if she were his life, and was even demoted 1 rank because of it. But even such a Shen Zhaoyuan still made Xu Yian uneasy. Is he getting impatient with me? Feiyun, did you see it? He didn't smile at me. Of course, I comforted her again this time. However, I couldn't soothe her. She kept repeating the cold look on Shen Zhaoyuan's face the last time he came back. Chang'e came over to find mother, and she paid her no mind. I picked up Chang'e, intending to take her out, but a voice sounded behind me. Wait, bring Chang'e over. 3. The little child was covered in red rashes and wailed in discomfort. Shen Zhaoyuan came back, looked at Chang'e, and was heartbroken, angrily scolding, how did you take care of the young miss? The servants knelt all over the ground, trembling. Xu Yian wiped the corner of his eye with a handkerchief. It's all my fault, I didn't watch properly. Let Chang'e eat peanuts. It's all my fault. Shen Zhaoyuan took a deep breath, put his arm around Xu Yian to comfort him. The servants didn't take good care of her. How can it be your fault? Next, Shen Zhaoyuan's gaze shifted from Chang'e to Xu Yian. This group of servants who attended to Chang'e were punished, and even the wet nurse who had fed her for 3 years was driven away, separated from the familiar wet nurse. Chang'e cried through the night. Xu Yian, annoyed from coaxing her, had the new wet nurse take Chang'e to live in a more distant courtyard. When Shen Zhaoyuan comes home, have someone bring Chang'e over later. Even when Chang'e fell ill, they still couldn't get Shen Zhaoyuan to come back. They went to inform him, and all they brought back was an order to punish the servants. Xu Yian was dejected for a while, unable to sleep at night and unable to eat during the day. His body, already worn down and frail, grew even more delicate and weak. At the moment Shen Zhaoyuan was handling a major case and hadn't been able to come home for a long time. Xu Yian's worry turned into illness. He stared blankly toward the doorway. I fed medicine to Xu Yian on the bed and said with a pained heart, "Miss, why do you make it so hard on yourself? Your husband is only busy." A tear slipped from the corner of Xu Yian's eye. He smiled bitterly. "His career will always be more important than I am. My father was never like that. Father wished he could stay by his principal wife's side all day, because he had accidentally caught his younger brother attempting to take advantage of her. They had a huge fight. The younger brother disowned his elder brother, and the elder brother hated the younger one to death. After that, the family split. Father himself was a man of little ability. The only reason he could hover at the 7th rank was that grandfather bought him the post. Since the office came too easily, father only thought about muddling through his days. As for moving up, he simply didn't have the ability, and was completely content clinging to her birth mother. Chang'e was brought over by her wet nurse. She stood at the doorway, afraid to come in, timidly hiding behind the wet nurse. Xu Yian glanced at Chang'e with a look of disgust and said, "Worthless thing, my mother treated me the same. Way back then, why didn't I fear her?" Afterwards she sighed softly. If only it had been a boy. She clutched her chest and felt so unwell she vomited. The mansion physician came to take her pulse and diagnosed a 2-month pregnancy. Xu Yian was instantly filled with vitality, her eyes shining as she instructed the servants, "Quick, go tell my husband I'm pregnant." Joy lit the corners of her eyes and brows, as though a withered tree had met spring. But this time, at a critical moment, Shen Zhaoyuan didn't come back. A flower that had just bloomed withered again, for Xu Yian was in poor spirits. So I bought a bunch of books and read them to her by her side, telling of talented scholars and beautiful maidens, telling of imperial consorts vying for favor. When it came to the faithless scholar, her eyes reddened, and I closed the book. "These stories are all made up for fun, miss, best not to listen." She insisted that I go on. I awkwardly continued reading. When the passage reached the beloved's death and the scholar's heartache, Xu Yian shed tears. "Really, only after someone is gone do you realize their importance? Why didn't you cherish them when they were still here?" I took a handkerchief and wiped her tears. When something becomes routine, it's easy to take it for granted. Only after losing it do you understand regret. She grasped my hand. "What, are you saying my husband is taking me for granted?" I misspoke and panicked, lowering my head. "The maid didn't mean that. Miss must be special to the gentleman. Your day and night waiting for him can only give him comfort, not cause him to take you lightly." Xu Yian's eyes flickered. Whether he heard it or not was unknown. By the time Shen Zhaoyuan finally finished and returned home, he was met with Xu Yian's cold face. She paid no attention to his soft words and ignored his humble gestures. When Shen Zhaoyuan grew angry, she quietly shed tears. "I'm unimportant to my husband, and so is my child." She lightly wiped her lower abdomen, and Shen Zhaoyuan looked ashamed. "After this round of work is done, I can rest for a while and stay at home to accompany my wife." But after only 1 day of companionship, a major case involving the heir of a high minister occurred, and Shen Zhaoyuan was hurriedly called back again. Xu Yian lost even the energy to be angry as before. I read aloud by her ear, not from a drama script, but switching to poetry when she recited, "Before the pillow I make 1,000 wishes. To part, let's wait until the green hills crumble." Something suddenly flashed in her eyes. "Feiyun, read the storybook you read last time once more." Puzzled, I asked through book after book until I mentioned that faithless scholar. She nodded. The more she thought about it, the more she cried and laughed. Die once, and he'll feel the pain to his core. I looked at her in horror. Miss. Anger harms the body. You still have a child in your womb. Shu Yian touched her belly, her expression growing even more resolute. No destruction, no construction. I will make sure I am Shen Zhaoyuan's only and first. She took my hand, her voice as gentle as a mother soothing a child to sleep. Feiyun, you'll help me, won't you? I shook my head desperately. No, no, miss. This is too dangerous. What if you, and the little miss, what will happen to her? If you're gone, what if the master can't resist being taken by someone else? Shu Yian tightened his grip on my hand. Feiyun, I've seen everything you've done these years. I know your loyalty to me, so this matter is for you to handle. You will help me fake my death, watch over my husband, and once I secure my place in his heart, I will ensure your wealth and honor. You have wanted to see your mother for a long time, haven't you? My expression softened slightly. She continued to persuade me, excitement glinting in her eyes. Think of your mother, Feiyun. You don't want to be my maidservant forever, do you? I remember you once had someone in your heart, didn't you? Later, I'll personally choose a man for you that pleases you. I bit my lip and said softly, this servant is willing to be the Mrs. Maid, to serve for a lifetime. Shu Yian's face grew cold. If you don't help me, I'll find someone else. I still shook my head. Miss, please think it over. You also have the second miss and the second young master in your womb. She lowered her eyes and sighed softly. To achieve one's goals, one must pay a price. They will also want their mother to have her wish fulfilled. She lifted my chin. Feiyun, you're different from other girls. You're honest, loyal, and not strikingly beautiful without all those tricks. With you by your husband's side, I feel at ease. I blinked the tears from my eyes. But, she glanced at me, obey me. Only if I am satisfied can you be satisfied. 5. Shu Yian was truly a ruthless person. She aimed at the corner of the table and rammed her belly into it. Before long, there was blood. The servants, panic-stricken, ran to fetch the residence physician. While another group went to call Shen Zhaoyuan, the county physician had already been bribed. After Shen Zhaoyuan hurried back, the physician stepped aside with a face full of sorrow. Sir, say your last few words to the madam. Shen Zhaoyuan seemed like he had lost his soul. He walked unsteadily and stumbled when he reached Shu Yian's bed, collapsing directly onto the footstool. He grabbed Shu Yian's hand, tears streaming down his face as he choked out, Yian, Yian. Shu Yian looked at his face and gave a smile. I knew what she was laughing at. Shen Zhaoyuan probably didn't understand. His eyes were bloodshot, his body trembling. Yian, you will be all right. I've already sent for the imperial physician. You will be all right. Shu Yian's expression shifted slightly. Forcing himself, he raised a hand, and Shen Zhaoyuan leaned in. I'm here. From now on I'll stay with you. You can't be harmed. His words were sincere and moving. My heart tightened slightly. I genuinely feared Shu Yian might change his mind at the last moment, but fortunately, Shu Yian's resolve was firm. She gently shook her head. Husband, being able to accompany you this far has already been my good fortune. I can't go with you any further. There are a few words I want to say to you. Shen Zhaoyuan nodded in pain. Shu Yian struggled to speak, managing a few words before resting for a while. Husband, don't be sad for me. I don't regret bearing children for you. Don't blame yourself. You are a very, very good husband. Chang'e is still young. I don't trust others to raise her. After I'm gone, you should marry Feiyun. She's actually my younger sister. She grew up with me. I only trust that she will treat Chang'e well. And, I love you so much. Don't forget me. After she finished speaking, she closed her eyes. A clear tear slid from the corner of her eye, and the hand that had been resting on Shen Zhaoyuan's face fell limply. Shen Zhaoyuan wept bitterly. I covered my lips and cried, head bowed. My heart was trembling, my whole body was trembling, but at last, I finally waited long enough. 6. Shu Yian died in a hurry, leaving no chance for the imperial physicians to do anything. The feigned death potion she took could halt her breath for 8 days, making her appear like a corpse. The mourning hall was set up within a single day. Everyone lamented the short, tragic life of a beauty and was moved to tears by the profound love between Shen Zhaoyuan and Shu Yian as husband and wife. During the 7 days her body lay in state. Shen Zhaoyuan drifted in a daze, drinking only a few sips of water, his heart ashen just as Xu Yian had hoped. After Chang'e learned of her mother's death, her little face tightened, and she asked me, "Aunt Feiyun, what is death?" I accompanied Xu Yian in the capacity of a senior maid. Chang'e didn't know that I was her aunt. I stroked her head and said, "It means you'll never see her again." Chang'e asked, bewildered, "Will I never see mother again?" I nodded. Chang'e thought it over for a moment. "Oh, then Chang'e will never get sick again. Being sick is so awful." Before the joy on her face could fully form, I covered her mouth and carried her out of the mourning hall. This funeral gave Xu Yian full dignity. Shen Zhaoyuan didn't leave for a moment and personally oversaw every step. My father and my legal mother came over, shed 2 tears, comforted Shen Zhaoyuan with a few words, and then left. Before leaving, my father called me over and, without a word, slapped me. "You take care of your legitimate sister like this." I knelt before him and accepted the charge. It's Feiyun's fault. He was still resentful and about to act when Shen Zhaoyuan appeared. He blocked his father's hand and said hoarsely, "Father-in-law, have mercy." Yian's dying wish was that Feiyun become my second wife and remain in the residence to care for Chang'e. My father froze for a moment, his gaze shifting. Half a smile crossed his face at his daughter's funeral altar, before he realized where he was and quickly sighed. "Very well, Feiyun is a quiet, attentive child. With her looking after Chang'e, I can rest easy." The day after Xu Yian was buried, I went at night and dug her body up, waiting for her to wake. In truth, I could have at that point let her feigned death become real, but when I thought about it, I had put up with so much over the years. Letting her die like that simply wasn't satisfying enough. When Xu Yian woke up, she saw me, took the stack of silver notes, and laughed heartily. "I knew I wasn't mistaken about you." She stood up and did not hurry to leave, but waited. When a carriage arrived, the stepmother stepped out, and Xu Yian obediently walked to her side. "Mother," my stepmother glanced at me. "Go on, you should go live elsewhere for a while," Xu Yian anxiously warned me. "You must keep a close eye on your son-in-law. Don't let anyone steal his soul away." I nodded, shaken with lingering fear, a cold sweat breaking out from that look from my stepmother. If I hadn't dug Xu Yian out, perhaps I would have been the one buried. Watching that carriage leave, I let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, I chose a different route for Xu Yian 7. After Xu Yian was buried, Shen Zhaoyuan seemed to want to numb himself with cases. He didn't go home for 2 straight months and cracked a major case. Upon returning to his post as Chief Justice of the Court of Judicial Review, no shortage of olive branches were extended to him, with some even intending to marry their daughters into his family, but he refused them all on the grounds that he still mourned his late wife. I stayed at the Shen residence to look after Chang'e. Chang'e was just 4 years old, so well behaved that she was a bit timid. I kept her company while she played with her drawings. I handled the affairs of the household. Shen Zhaoyuan's parents died in the line of duty while in office, and there were no elders in the household. Since Xu Yian married into the Shen family, I have been handling household affairs for 4 years. Her time is as precious as gold. She must be loving and affectionate with Shen Zhaoyuan. I want to manage things for her, but I cannot manage them well. I often make missteps, big or small, giving her every excuse to punish me and to display her matriarchal authority and brilliance. Kill the chicken to scare the monkeys, then say that punishing me is for my own good, so I won't make mistakes in the future, and those below will be more cautious, too. This is how she manages her subordinates, and this is how I manage my superiors. In this way, all the affairs of the Shen household will pass through my hands at least once. In the 3rd month after Xu Yian's feigned death, I was leaving the mansion when one of my father's men called me back. He told me to find out when Shen Zhaoyuan intended to marry me. There were too many people at court watching over him as a son-in-law. I answered meekly, "The son-in-law still misses my sister. He hasn't come to see me at all these days." My father looked exasperated. "If he doesn't come to see you, won't you go to find him? How did your sister treat Shen Zhaoyuan back then? Haven't you learned anything at all? He doesn't know that Xu Yian faked his death." I lowered my eyes, putting on a foolish look. He sighed again and again, waving his hand to tell me to get lost. Carrying the candied fruit I bought for Chang'e, I walked back to the residence. She froze when she saw Shen Zhaoyuan's carriage at the door when she returned to Changyi's courtyard. There were people talking inside. Shen Zhaoyuan was asking, "What has Ye been doing lately?" Changyi answered obediently, "Painting with Aunt Feiyun." "Ye, do you like Aunt Feiyun?" I didn't hear a response. The people inside had already seen me. I gave a proper, respectful salute. Shen Zhaoyuan inclined his head with a cold expression. He called after me as he came out of the courtyard, "You've been handling the household affairs lately. Thank you for your hard work." I murmured sadly. Miss entrusted me with many things before she passed. I was only doing my duty. Shen Zhaoyuan was silent for a long moment, then sighed softly, his voice much lower. "You should return to the Shu residence for now. In the 5th month after Shu Yian feigned his death, Shen Zhaoyuan married me and I became his second wife. This wedding was very low-key. Not many people were invited. It couldn't compare to Shu Yian's. On the wedding night, Shen Zhaoyuan stood at the head of the bed and said to me, 'The only woman in my heart is Yian. I will give you the respect due the legitimate wife of the Shen family, but don't entertain any other expectations. Your sole duty is to take care of Changyi.'" Calm, steady, without a trace of feeling. I was not surprised. I took 2 pieces of paper from my ceremonial clothes and handed them to Shen Zhaoyuan. He stared after reading, his expression stunned. I sat on the bedside, my face calm. "Servant, I know that Master and Miss are deeply devoted. I certainly do not have feelings for Master. Becoming Master's new wife would indeed be my fortune. But if Miss can live well, I do not want that fortune. The reason I am willing to marry in is only for the little Miss. So, Master can rest assured of these 2 papers. One contains my promise that after the little Miss comes of age and is married, I will leave. Likewise, Master must promise to treat me well during this period, give me the proper status. And also," he looked at those 4 characters, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly, "no consummation." "Yes," I continued, "the other document is a divorce deed. When the time is right, please let me go, Master." I gazed out at the night beyond the window, holding on to hope. Outside the Shen residence, someone is still waiting for me. 9. Shen Zhaoyuan furrowed his brows. I tilt my head back and look him straight in the eye, make him face my eyes for the first time. "I have nothing with the young Master but what my lady entrusted to me, and no other intention. If the young Master agrees, please sign, so I can be at ease." He scrutinizes me closely for a long time, as if meeting me for the first time. Our silent gaze was broken by him. He took up his pen to sign, then pressed his seal. I carefully put the 2 sheets away and gave him a perfectly measured smile. "You'll have to stay as our guest tonight. After that, choose where you wish to go. I won't interfere. Just remain in the household and live with the young Miss." I tidied up the bridal bed, cleared away all the fruit on it, and laid out the bedding for Shen Zhaoyuan. Then I took out 2 quilts and made a bed on the floor. Shen Zhaoyuan acquiesced. The night passed peacefully. There are no elders in the household, so I don't need to pay my respects over these 4 years. I've thoroughly figured out everyone in the Shen household, and I've already made sure to win people over and bind their loyalties in secret. Some are unhappy that I've gone from maid to mistress, but I hold their indenture contracts in my hands. It's all too easy to deal with them. Those who shirk and play tricks are kicked out. Those who work diligently are rewarded. I've had the storeroom holding Shu Yian's dowry sealed. It will only be opened when Changyi marries. In the past, everything I did won fame for Shu Yian Bo. Success was like this, and failure was like this as well. Now the Shen household is even more orderly than before. When Shen Zhaoyuan returned to the residence, he noticed the changes. He didn't say anything, but there was inquiry in his gaze toward me, and a barely perceptible appreciation. I treated him with courtesy. The 2 of us respected each other like guests, polite and distant. The turning point in our relationship happened in the 3rd month after the wedding. He was carried back to the Shen residence in a desperate act. The criminal took Shen Zhaoyuan hostage. During the rescue, Shen Zhaoyuan was stabbed in the lower abdomen. Many people came to the residence. Even 2 imperial physicians arrived. I had the wet nurse take Changyi to bed first, and bowls of blooded water were carried out from the main courtyard one after another. The imperial physician bandaged him and told me to watch Shen Zhaoyuan through the night. If he developed a fever, I was to reduce it promptly. I agreed to each instruction. After the crowd left, I stayed by his bedside, wringing out the handkerchiefs in the basin and wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. He was unconscious now. I sighed softly. You must get better. 10. The maid brought the decoction, and I fed it into his mouth spoonful by spoonful in the dead of night. His cheeks grew hot. Following the imperial physician's instructions, I wiped his body with alcohol over and over until dawn came. I couldn't hold on and fell asleep by the bedside when I was barely conscious. I felt a gaze lingering on me, propping my temple. I opened my eyes and met Shen Zhaoyuan's calm gaze. Gu. There were servants waiting in the outer room, so I pressed my lips together and changed my address. My lord. Do you feel any other discomfort? He blinked, his voice hoarse. You stayed up guarding all night. I nodded slightly. Fearing he might read too much into it, I added softly, if I had left you in the care of the servants, it would feel less personal, and outsiders might speculate. Shen Zhaoyuan closed his eyes. No need, you should rest. Let Song Yang watch over this place. Song Yang is his personal attendant. I didn't refuse, trying to stand up, having kept an uncomfortable position for a long time. My leg went numb and I accidentally fell, just scraping against Shen Zhaoyuan's wound and pressing on it. He let out a muffled groan, cold sweat breaking out instantly. I hurriedly withdrew my hand. It's all my fault, sir. Are you okay? Someone, quickly call a doctor. Shen Zhaoyuan breathed heavily, furrowed his brow, and couldn't say a word. I waited for the doctor. To atone for my sins, I stayed behind in shame. I personally served him his decoctions. Shen Zhaoyuan's face was very pale, with no trace of color on his lips. I instructed the kitchen to simmer a restorative soup. He took his medicine quickly, but his brows would crease almost imperceptibly. At night while he was taking his medicine, there were 2 more candied fruits on the tray. His gaze skimmed past the candied fruits and he only finished the medicine. I picked up the 2 candied fruits and handed them to him. I was afraid Chang'e would be frightened, so I didn't let her come in. She's very worried about father. She specially brought these. If father eats something sweet, it won't hurt as much. Shen Zhaoyuan's expression softened. He put the candied fruits into his mouth, and his brow relaxed slightly. He looked at me, his tone gentle. You, Chang'e, you've been thoughtful. I took the medicine bowl away. I heard him say behind me, thank you. I looked back at him, and he said, with you here, Chang'e is much healthier, and the household is very stable. I said, I should. Then I smiled at him and turned to leave. 11. Shen Zhaoyuan recuperated from his injuries for 2 months. I received 5 carrier pigeons. Xu Yian urgently pressed me about Shen Zhaoyuan's situation. I wrote back to reassure her and, following her instructions, placed many of Xu Yian's former belongings in Shen Zhaoyuan's quarters. After seeing them, Shen Zhaoyuan gazed at those items and was lost in memories of their owner. I did my best to recount by his side how Xu Yian had waited in vain and how he longed for him. The image in my mind grew ever more beautiful with each recollection, and when the truth was revealed it shattered all the more completely. His voice was hoarse. It was I who failed her. I comforted him softly. What miss cannot let go of is Chang'e. If the official cares for Chang'e wholeheartedly, she will be at peace. Shen Zhaoyuan's eyes were slightly reddened. Father. Chang'e ran in from the doorway, holding up a kite. Aunt bought me a kite. Will you fly it with me? Shen Zhaoyuan's injuries were no longer an issue. He picked up Chang'e. All right, let's go fly the kite. Chang'e waved her little hand at me. Auntie is coming too. Shen Zhaoyuan tilted his head toward me. Let's go together. I didn't force Chang'e to call me mother, and in private I interacted with her as her mother's younger sister, constantly reminding Shen Zhaoyuan that I have no interest in him. The paper kite was blown higher and higher by the wind, and Chang'e ran joyfully through the garden. Shen Zhaoyuan stood on the path, watching with a smile. I handed him a cloak. My lord, you've only just recovered from serious injuries. You should still be careful. He took it and murmured, thank you. Chang'e tugged on the string in her hand. Suddenly, the string snapped, and the paper kite was instantly carried off by the wind. Chang'e stared blankly at the sky, her little mouth quivering as she was about to cry. I pulled a piece of candied fruit from my sleeve pocket and popped it into her mouth. Before she cried, she began to chew. Aunt, The kite flew away. I know, the kite's mission was to make Chang'e happy today. Its mission was completed, so it left. Chang'e blinked. What is a mission? I crouched in front of her, took the string from her hand, and wiped away the sweat from her run. It was still a bit chilly at the end of spring, so I fastened a little cape for her to keep her from catching a cold from the sudden changes in temperature. A mission is what you're meant to do. Then Chang'e's mission is to fly kites. I was amused by Chang'e, but then I heard another laugh. I turned around and saw Shen Zhaoyuan pressing a clenched fist to the corner of his lips. Laughing softly, he met my gaze, the smile in his eyes lingering. The chill and wariness of our wedding night melted away like snow. My smile grew more genuine as well. 12 After the first sharp pain faded, and with the precedent of someone having died, Shen Zhaoyuan changed. No matter how late he finished his work, he would return to the residence to check on Chang'e. Even if Chang'e was already asleep, I also got used to leaving a light on for Shen Zhaoyuan. There's food kept warm on the stove. When Shen Zhaoyuan comes back, he sometimes eats a few bites and exchanges a few words with me. With summer coming, it's time to prepare lighter shirts. The tailor shop's assistant couldn't wait for Shen Zhaoyuan to return, so he entrusted it to me. I took the tape measure, had Shen Zhaoyuan stand still, and measured him with the soft tape. The measurements for Chang'e have all been noted. Only yours remain, my lord. Wear lighter clothing so you'll be comfortable while on duty. He lowered his gaze, saying nothing, letting me measure his shoulders and arms. When we reached the waist, my arms needed to circle him once. I hesitated and withdrew my hand. Let Songyang do it after all. I'll tell him how to measure. Shen Zhaoyuan's eyelashes trembled. I told him to go to bed. At this hour, don't call. I looked out the door of our residence and saw the maid who was guarding it. Just you go, hurry. When he said that, I couldn't refuse anymore. I looped my arm around his waist, and his breath quietly brushed the side of my face. I held my breath and finished, quickly memorizing. Okay, it's done, sir. Please rest first. I'm leaving now. I turned around with a soft ruler and a record book in my hand. Aren't you feeling wronged? I paused, looking at him in astonishment. He had little expression on his face. In the prime of your life, watching someone else's husband and child. What about you? I curved my lips into a slight smile. Some people come before myself. Elder sister saved my life. No matter what, I will fulfill her wish. Besides, Chang'e is very well behaved. The night breeze was gentle, and so was my voice. My lord is good, too. His gaze faltered for a moment. I said, so, I'm not feeling wronged. After saying that, I left. I could feel a gaze fixed on my back the whole time. 13 Shu Yian probably won't be able to hold out much longer, but this level still isn't enough. She has a few dowry shops, and now they're all managed by me. I went to one of the shops during the day and personally collected the account books. Sure enough, I spotted someone nearby wearing a veiled hat. Acting suspiciously, she beckoned to me. After glancing around, I shot her a look and went up to the second floor of the tea house. Before long, someone came in. Shu Yian tossed aside her veil hat and came at me with a raised hand, full of fury. You really think you're the master here, do you? I caught her wrist halfway. She widened her eyes. You dare hit back? My fingers loosened slightly. The new son-in-law comes home every night to keep Chang'e company now. If my face were swollen, it would be hard to explain. If he grew suspicious and traced it back, it would be bad for you, miss. Shu Yian pressed his lips together and snatched his hand back angrily. If I die, how would he know to come home? I sighed. Miss, you don't know. I'm following your instructions. When I spoke to him, he thought of how you once waited for him in such agony, so he feels remorse and pain. Because of you, he treats Chang'e this way. Her complexion looked a little better. I poured her a cup of tea. Miss, have you decided when you'll come back? Shu Yian lifted her chin. Not yet. Coming back too soon after faking my death would only make him think it's a joke. I need to be completely prepared so that when he sees me, it cuts to the bone and he won't dare ignore me ever again. I looked at her in puzzlement. She curled her lips. The reason father cared so much about mother was that he feared, if he let his guard down, someone else would set their sights on her. But I had been too focused on my husband before, which caused him to lose his reverence for me. I must make him both regret having treated me coldly and fear that other men might appear at my side. Feigning death is a move that can only be used once, so it must hit the mark, I understood. And exclaimed, Miss, what a scheme. Her complexion was much better than when she was at the Shen residence. She snorted lightly and put her veil back on. You performed well. I will arrange for you to meet your mother in the future. By the way, do not tell my mother that you saw me in the capital. I naturally agreed. After she left, I rubbed my temple and couldn't help but laugh. My efforts weren't in vain. I've been putting her on a pedestal since she was little. Xu Yian is an exceptionally clever girl. 14. Xu Yian is different from Chang'e. After falling ill a few times, Chang'e became so scared that she didn't dare go near Xu Yian. But after getting sick at her stepmother's place, Xu Yian would cooperate fully by staying by her stepmother's side, waiting for her father to come home, and telling him together with her mother how much they needed him. Later father was tamed by my stepmother and no longer needed that trick. Xu Yian even felt a bit regretful. She could no longer gain her stepmother's praise or her father's attention that way. That was when illegitimate daughters like me needed to cluster around her, hold her up, revere her, and let her feel superior. The match with Shen Zhaoyuan was carefully chosen by my stepmother. Both parents were dead. There were some connections at court. Her reputation was spotless, and her family wasn't very high-ranking. Xu Yian would not suffer after marrying him, but her stepmother miscalculated one move. Xu Yian acted obedient in front of her, yet her heart had long since twisted. She needed a love even better than the father's love for the stepmother. When Xu Yian was making blunders one after another, the stepmother came to advise her to stop. Xu Yian, eyes red and choking up, Mother, is it that you can't stand to see my husband treat your daughter better than father treats you? The stepmother closed her eyes and never came to the Shen residence again. Xu Yian was both angry that her stepmother was ignoring her and worried that she truly would, muttering that her stepmother had always cared more about her younger brother and that she shouldn't have talked back to her. Even so, she still couldn't help using every trick she knew to get Shen Zhaoyuan to come home, until Shen Zhaoyuan said, Try not to call me next time, Dali Temple is busy. She froze, terrified. This is the moment I have to seize. Xu Yian hasn't disappointed me at any step. She truly is my good older sister. I bought some little gadgets to take back for Chang'e to play with. Shen Zhaoyuan was there too. Sir, you're back so early today. He nodded. Nothing important, came home to keep Ye company. I placed the things I'd bought in front of Chang'e. Chang'e opened it curiously. It's wood. Shen Zhaoyuan lifted her onto his lap and took the Luban lock from her hands. Yeah, take a look, can you unlock it? Chang'e shook her head. Shen Zhaoyuan moved it a few times, and the wooden pieces came apart one by one. Chang'e's eyes grew rounder and rounder. Daddy, you're amazing. Shen Zhaoyuan handed it back, putting it into Chang'e's hand. Try it. Shen Zhaoyuan set her down and gave me a signal. I followed him outside the door. He lowered his voice. There's a banquet tomorrow. Family members are to be brought. In the past Xu Yian would always attend banquets, but later the reputation of her frailty spread, and invitations to ask her to come gradually diminished. I followed by her side, and I'm not unfamiliar with this kind of occasion. I can go. Shen Zhaoyuan pressed his lips slightly, seeming a bit uneasy. My lord, don't worry. I've attended these occasions with my stepmother and the young lady before. I know what to do. I'm now your wife in name. I can't stay cooped up at home forever. I turned my head and looked inside the room at Chang'e, who was intently studying the wood, and softly said, Chang'e also needs a mother who can hold her own in public. Shen Zhaoyuan's gaze followed mine, then fell back on me. Then I'll leave it to you. Feiyun, 15. I froze for a moment, looking at him in surprise. He had already turned his head aside and cleared his throat lightly. There is one more thing. The young miss of the Shaoqing household is somewhat, he chose his words carefully, somewhat troublesome. If she takes it out on you, do not be angered. Leave it to me. I blinked and covered my lips with a soft laugh. Understood, sir. Shen Zhaoyuan sighed helplessly. I've prepared my clothes and makeup, and I promise I won't embarrass us in public. Shen Zhaoyuan was waiting in the courtyard. When he turned and saw me, he was momentarily dazed. I walked up to him. Like this, am I off in any way? Shen Zhaoyuan withdrew his gaze and gently shook his head. This banquet was hosted by the Deputy Minister of the Court of Judicial Review. To celebrate his birthday there weren't many guests, They sat at separate tables, all colleagues from the Court of Judicial Review. I took a seat with Shen Jiaoyuan. The deputy minister seemed to value Shen Jiaoyuan especially. Not long after we sat down, he was called away for a private conversation. I sat at the table and felt someone approaching. A young woman sat down in Shen Jiaoyuan's seat. I looked over instinctively. She stared intently at my face, frowning as she inspected me. In an instant, I realized who she was. She handed me a cup of wine. I haven't yet thanked Madam. Back then, young Master Shen took my place as a hostage and was stabbed by the bandits. We must also thank Madam for the careful care she gave young Master Shen when he was gravely wounded. I smiled slightly. As his wife, it's my duty to take care of him. The girl shook her head. This isn't an ordinary injury. He was hurt for me. If he ends up with a lingering illness because of it, I fear I will never be able to let it go. She stubbornly held the cup of wine aloft. I looked around. Shen Jiaoyuan was not nearby. Madam, you needn't watch. He has important matters to discuss with my father, miss. If you won't accept this cup from me, is it because you refuse my thanks? The others nearby all turned to look, their gazes edged with mockery. Surely it wasn't only Shen Jiaoyuan who knew the feelings this young lady harbored. I took the cup but did not drink. Miss Li, you needn't be offended. My husband never mentioned that matter to me. I suppose it isn't something he considers worth worrying about. Her expression changed slightly. I turned the wine glass in my hand, my heart calm and untroubled. If Xu Yian were here facing her, he would have been provoked long ago. She loved Shen Jiaoyuan that much. How could she allow someone to provoke him to his face? But I'm not her. I don't love Shen Jiaoyuan. The smile on my face didn't change in the slightest. A husband is loyal to his lord and responsible to the people. Even if the one in danger that day wasn't the young lady but someone else, my husband would still do his best to save them. Her face flushed in an instant. I bowed my head, brought the cup to my lips, pressed them briefly to the surface of the wine and took a small sip, then said to her, I'll drink this wine. You may put it down, young lady. She drew a deep, angry breath and lowered her voice to me. Your status doesn't match Mr. Shen at all. You're just a concubine's daughter and have been a maid for so many years. He will achieve great things in the future, and you'll embarrass him. Miss Li, you're mistaken. Since he married me, he believed I was suitable for him. A noble, elegant lady would naturally have finer men suited to her. Why fixate on a married man? She opened her mouth in vain, but had no words to argue back. When the uncontrollable laughter broke out, she could no longer hold back and got up to leave. Looks like you don't know your wife very well, do you? I followed the voice and looked over. Shen Jiaoyuan seemed to have rushed back. His breathing was unsteady, slightly panting, and his hair was a bit messy. I don't know how long he had been listening. The assistant minister of the Dali temple at his side patted his shoulder. All right, just this once. I won't indulge my little girl again. Shen Jiaoyuan tilted his head and gave the assistant minister a slight nod, then walked over to me and sat by my side. He didn't speak, and I listened as his breathing gradually steadied. Then he let out a low laugh. I wonder, what are you laughing at? He shook his head without a word, but the eyes looking at me lit up a little. 16. Shen Jiaoyuan became strange. His gaze began to rest on me, intentionally or not. When I looked over, he nimbly shifted his eyes away, so I deliberately put some distance between us. Whenever he went to see Chang'e, I avoided them. He came back to the residence when I was already asleep. At this rate, we won't even see each other soon. Shen Jiaoyuan noticed. On his day off, when there was no avoiding it, he asked me, Fei Yun, are you avoiding me? I feigned confusion. My lord, you're overthinking it. Why would I avoid you? He stared at me, then closed his eyes. Very well. I didn't press him. He added, you don't need to call me my lord anymore. Now we are family. I was taken aback. If you don't want to call me husband, then just use my name. Before I could refuse or agree, he sidestepped and left. He paused at the threshold. I have 3 days off. Tomorrow, shall we take Chang'e out of the city to enjoy the scenery? I looked at the sky outside. The sun was blazing. It's a fine day. Chang'e was very happy about this outing. It had been a very, very long time since she had gone out with Shen Jiaoyuan. There was a temple fair in the city, bustling with crowds, and we wandered until nightfall. Chang'e could no longer walk and was carried by Shen Jiaoyuan. There's a person's distance between Shen Jiaoyuan and me, and after just a few steps were scattered by the crowd, he walks fast. He glanced back at me, cradled Chang'e with one arm, and reached a hand out to me. I hesitated for a moment. He said, "Too many people. Let's not get separated." I hesitated for a moment before slowly resting my hand in his palm, and in an instant I was enveloped. The corners of his lips seemed to lift a little. The smile in the night was not obvious, and at this moment, behind him I vaguely saw a somewhat familiar silhouette. A figure in a cyan robe flashed past in the crowd. My mind went blank for a moment. I instinctively snapped my hand back and chased after that person. My heart was pounding, pounding, pounding. All other sounds vanished from my ears, and the scene and the crowd before me blurred. I forced my eyes wide open and focused, searching one by one. This isn't it, that isn't it either. My nails dug into my palm as I clenched my fist, and someone coming toward me bumped my shoulder. Someone behind me caught me. "What's wrong? Who did you see?" My mouth hung open as I looked at Shen Jiaoyuan in bewilderment. My throat clogged, unable to speak. He frowned, and Chang'e, stretching a hand from his arms, wiped my face. "Auntie, why are you crying? Did someone bump into you and hurt you?" My mind was dull. I couldn't answer. Shen Jiaoyuan's expression darkened. He took my hand and, against the flow of people, walked in the direction where the carriage was waiting. The voices gradually quieted from the racket. The coachman leaned on the side of the carriage, lowering his head and dozing off. The smell of alcohol on him mixing with where he had drunk it. Shen Jiaoyuan released me and first carried Chang'e up. My eyes suddenly flashed with a silver light. The coachman drew a dagger from his bosom and stabbed at Shen Jiaoyuan in the blink of an eye. I immediately shoved him away. The dagger cut across my arm, and blood instantly gushed out. Crimson cloud. The man missed with his strike and fled straight into the night. The attendant immediately gave chase. Shen Jiaoyuan grabbed my hand and barked sharply. "What did you rush in for?" My head was swimming. I really couldn't handle anything that required thinking. Tonight I regretted it the moment the pain hit, but since I'd already taken the blow, it couldn't be for nothing. I forced a smile at him to comfort him. "It's okay, my life is cheap. As long as your lordship and Chang'e are fine, it's all that matters. It's just," I looked at the blood on my arm, my mouth dry. "It's just." Then, everything went dark before my eyes. 17. The dream was beautiful. My mother was by my side. She dressed me, combed my hair, and made delicious food. I married the person I love. He told me I am fine, not the least bit lowly. Then I woke up. I returned to reality. Someone was wiping my face with a warm towel. I rolled my eyes and looked over. The blurred face gradually came into focus. "It's you, sir." Shen Jiaoyuan sat on the edge of the bed, the hand at the corner of my eye froze. His tone uncertain. "You seem somewhat disappointed," I awkwardly retorted. "How could I be? These trivial matters don't require you. Have the maid handle them." His expression didn't change. After wiping my face clean, he said, "Do you want them to hear Madam crying and calling for her mother?" He put the handkerchief into the basin to wash it, his voice flat. "Is Luosheng the one waiting for you outside the residence?" My heart tightened, and my lips trembled. The room fell into a deathly silence. In the end, I broke the silence, my voice hoarse and rasping. "Yes." Shen Jiaoyuan lifted his gaze to me in an instant. I stared blankly at the ceiling, but I lost track of him. A long time ago. He should have forgotten me long ago, so there's no way I could have seen him at the temple fair. Shen Jiaoyuan silently wiped the corners of my eyes. "You lost your composure at the temple fair because you thought you saw him." I closed my eyes and let out a breath. "I'm sorry, my lord, for spoiling your good mood," he said. "Call me Jiaoyuan." 18. The wound on my arm wasn't serious. I spent a day in a low mood and then pulled myself together. The past must not be allowed to disturb the present. Shen Jiaoyuan's leave ended, and he returned to the Court of Judicial Review. My arm was injured, so Shen Jiaoyuan told me not to handle the household affairs for now. He would come back as early as possible. For half a month straight, Shen Jiaoyuan has been getting off work on time. I received a letter from Xu Yian. She told me to find a way to take Shen Jiaoyuan to the Chen family distillery in the west of the city. I burned the letter, knowing that Xu Yian must have already made the arrangements. I finished my makeup, put on the newly made clothes, and waited for Shen Zhaoyuan to come back so I could help him change out of his official robes. He looked at me with a hint of curiosity. "Why are you dressed up so finely today?" I took his clothes out of the cabinet, also newly made, in the same fabric as the ones I was wearing. "Today is my birthday." Shen Zhaoyuan was stunned, a hint of annoyance showing on his face. I neglected it. I handed him the clothes. When I was a child, the tastiest thing I ate was the fried meatballs from the west of the city, but I couldn't leave the mansion and had to have others bring them to me. Today I want to go and eat them fresh myself. Would you be willing to fulfill my wish? He took the clothes and put them on, just to eat those, nothing else. The thought of the meatballs in my memory, already cooling, made something soft well up inside me. This is enough. He put on his clothes but didn't agree. Instead, he shook his head. I was a bit surprised when I heard him say, "Call me Zhao Yuan." The heart I'd raised sank back down. I called softly, "Zhao Yuan." He let out a light laugh. "Come on, let's get meatballs. Invite Chang'e." I stopped him instinctively. At this hour, Chang'e should be asleep. Shen Zhaoyuan had already stepped over the threshold and ordered someone to bring Chang'e over. Then he said to me, "It's a rare occasion. It's fine, birthdays should be lively. I'll remember to throw you a big one next year." Looking at his sincere eyes, my heart was somewhat complicated. The carriage traveled along the road. A few pedestrians dotted the way. Xiao Chang'e had already started yawning, lying across my lap. "Auntie, are the dumplings really that tasty?" I stroked her hair and said, It was Auntie's favorite when she was little." Shen Zhaoyuan gave me a somewhat subtle look and didn't ask further. The carriage stopped in front of the shop. The aroma was already wafting over. There were still diners around, so we sat down at an empty table. The owner had just put on a fresh pot. Chang'e twitched her nose. "Smells great." I laughed. "Yeah, but it's pretty oily. Can't have too much, or your stomach will feel off." Chang'e perked up, his eyes fixed intently on the boss's oil wok. Directly across from the shop was a distillery. The banner read Chenji. Inside, a burly man was busy, attending to customers. Before long, a woman whose beauty could not be concealed by coarse linen stepped out. From the inner hall, she was carrying a wine jar. And the instant her gaze swept over, the jar shattered on the floor. The burly man immediately rushed to her side, anxiously checking on her, but she only stared blankly, looking over. Shen Zhaoyuan saw that his wife, who had been dead for nearly a year, was being fussed over by another man. 19. Xu Yian's instinctive reaction was to run, but the man concerned about her hemmed her in, and she couldn't get away. Shen Zhaoyuan withdrew his gaze, with a chill that was unexpected. The meatballs were served, steaming hot. Shen Zhaoyuan picked up one for me and one for Chang'e. "Careful, it's hot." Because of the commotion over there, Chang'e looked over too. Once the meatball landed in her bowl, she focused on blowing on it. The people over there had turned it into a one-man show. The two of them have been grappling until now, and Xu Yian still hasn't left. She didn't see the person chasing after her, and couldn't help turning back to look. Then she saw Shen Zhaoyuan single-mindedly picking meatballs for me. I gave her a helpless look, and under her near-flaming gaze, tugged at Shen Zhaoyuan's sleeve. "My lord, is that eldest sister?" Shen Zhaoyuan frowned. "Zhaoyuan." I had to correct myself. "Zhaoyuan, look at that woman. She isn't." Shen Zhaoyuan was unusually unequivocal. "In so vast a world, it's not strange for people to resemble one another. My wife Yian has passed away, and that lady has her own family. Feiyun, you're daydreaming again." Another meatball landed in my bowl. Chang'e had placed it there, her tender child's voice clear and crisp. "Mother, eat up, it's crispy and so fragrant." I looked at Chang'e in surprise. This was the first time she had called me mother. The person opposite was about to lose it. She forced back her fury, walked over stiffly, her eyes reddening. "You call her mother, so what about your own mother?" Chang'e blinked and snuggled into my arms in fear. "Mother, who is she?" I held her close. Xu Yian widened his eyes. Shen Zhaoyuan left a silver ingot, took Chang'e from my arms, and gently patted her back. "Don't be afraid, she's just a passerby." Xu Yian looked stunned. "Husband," the man behind her hurriedly responded. "I'm here." Shen Zhaoyuan stood up, lowered his eyes to look at me. "Finished eating? Pack some up. Let's go to our place." He completely and utterly ignored Xu Yian. Xu Yian grabbed Shen Zhaoyuan's arm. You don't recognize me. Has she seduced you? Why are you treating her so well? Shen Zhaoyuan set Chang'e down and pushed her hand away. Who are you? I am. She opened her mouth but fell silent again. Shen Zhaoyuan's voice was very cold. Are you my wife who's already dead? If you are, then whose funeral was that for? 20 Xu Yian couldn't answer. She only remembered that the faithless scholar was heartbroken after his beloved died, but hadn't considered how he would react upon seeing his lover come back from the dead. Would it be the love regained, treasured like a gem, or the anger and indifference of having been deceived? It should be the former, right? After all, the scholar loved her so deeply, and his pain and regret were so intense. However, Shen Zhaoyuan's reaction was beyond her expectations. Didn't he love her that much? This wasn't what she had imagined. The man beside her shepherded her to his side, saying, My wife isn't well, we won't stay to disturb you. But Xu Yian suddenly came to herself. She pushed away the man shielding her and looked up at Shen Zhaoyuan, saying, For you, if you had cared about me more, I wouldn't have been in so much pain, I wouldn't have wanted to leave you. If you had been completely satisfied with me, how could I have ever left like that? I only want a husband who pays attention to me and loves me. What's wrong with that? She vented her discontent, her grievances. As she spoke she began to choke up. The chill in Shen Zhaoyuan's eyes slowly receded. He looked at Xu Yian for a long time. It seems I was wrong. Staying by my side has caused you pain. For a moment, Xu Yian felt a flicker of joy. It lasted only a moment. Shen Zhaoyuan swept his gaze over the man at her side, then said, I wish you and your current husband a long, long time together. 21. Shen Zhaoyuan left the already dazed Xu Yian behind. The carriage was very quiet. They rode in silence all the way back at the Shen residence. Chang'e pulled me to sleep with her, and Shen Zhaoyuan did not stop us. Chang'e lay on the bed, blinking. Then suddenly whispered, That was my mother, wasn't it? I turned my head to look at her. On her small face was an expression that didn't fit her age. I didn't deny it. Does Chang'e want mother to come back? Chang'e pouted. I want mother, and I don't, she said slowly. I want mother to love me, but every time I see her, it's me who gets scolded. When Zhong Nanny wouldn't let mother give me peanuts, mother insisted on stuffing them into my mouth. She wouldn't let me wear thick clothes, made me stand punished under the eaves, and she wouldn't let me tell father, or else she would stop loving me. She crawled under the quilt, covered her head, and said miserably, Auntie, I don't want mother. I'm not a good child, am I? I pulled her into my arms with the quilt and gently patted her. No, Chang'e is the best little girl. At such a young age you can remember so much and can express your thoughts. Have your own opinions. You are far more capable than many children your age. She quietly revealed a pair of eyes. Really? I kissed her forehead. Really? Chang'e is much more capable than Auntie. She blinked. What were you like when you were little, Auntie? I paused for a moment. Back then, I was just a lump of clay. However others mold me, that's what I became. The little girl seemed to half understand. I covered her eyes. Sleep. Memories from the past surface one after another in my mind. I just can't fall asleep no matter what. I remember growing up in the servants' quarters, and the words I heard most often were that I was an unlikable bastard. They said my birth mother was a shameless woman who climbed into someone's bed. The mistress was merciful and didn't take her life, only sent her away, and even spared mine. My life was given by the mistress. I must remember to repay her kindness when I don't have enough to eat. I must remember to repay her kindness when I'm not warm enough. I must remember to repay her kindness serving at Xu Yian's side. Even when beaten and punished, I must still remember to repay her kindness. My mind was filled with the words repay a debt, filled with the notion that I was born to a lowly fate. Back then, the sky always seemed dark, and my mind was muddled and hazy. I couldn't see clearly or tell anything apart until a voice, like a ray of heavenly light, split straight into my head. My sky brightened, and I understood. All these years, I had been in pain. 22. I couldn't sleep and shed many tears. I crept out of bed, quietly put on my outer robe, and stepped out the door. There was actually still someone standing in the courtyard at this hour. I thought for a moment, turned around to take something out, and walked over to Shen Zhaoyuan's side. Don't you have anything you want to say to me? I lowered my eyes. My lord must have already guessed. There's no way I could have kept the matter of helping Shu Yian fake his death a secret. Even if Shen Zhaoyuan doesn't find out, when Shu Yian wants to come back in the future, he'll pin the blame on me. I might as well slip up on purpose. She faked her death and left because I was busy with official duties. You knew all along she was still alive, and watched me fall to pieces together with her. Why did you lead me to see her again tonight? I remained silent, answering only his last question. Miss has always had someone in her heart. Me. Shen Zhaoyuan smiled. You take me for a joke. I spoke for Shu Yian. Miss only wants to make that man care more about her. I think the man who stays by her side is merely a decoy, meant to make that man jealous. Enough, he interrupted me, paused, and asked, Shu Feiyun, you are perfectly satisfied with your lady. Have you ever thought about me? I clenched the paper in my hand. Shen Zhaoyuan's face was expressionless, but his eyes were so complicated I couldn't decipher them. We've been married for a year and never quarreled. I respect you as my wife. Have you ever once regarded me as your husband? He walked up to me step by step. I instinctively stepped back with every move. I don't believe you have not felt a thing at all. If you hadn't noticed, you wouldn't be avoiding me. Do you want to persuade me to forgive Shu Yian and bring her back now? Shu Feiyun, I ask you, do you have any feelings for me at all? My heel hit the step. I tilted backward, and he held me tightly. Sir, call me Zhaoyuan, he said, his grip on my arm tightening. You're still thinking about that Luo Sheng. But he chose to betray you. Why can't you let him go? I couldn't believe it. You investigated him. Shen Zhaoyuan sighed softly, tightened his hold, and drew me into his embrace. I know first loves are hard to forget, but he's not worth it. He cheated on you, toyed with Shu Yian, and deserved to be driven away. Don't dwell on him anymore. You have me now. I clenched my teeth to hold back my hatred. He gently patted my back. I won't take Shu Yian back. If she wants to die, then let her be dead. The divorce paper and contract in my hand were pinned down by him, and I couldn't pull them out. Feiyun, if you don't leave, you are my only wife. 23. After coming clean, everything was calm, as if Shu Yian had never appeared before I could go looking for her. She took the initiative to come to my door. The gatekeeper came to report as if he'd seen a ghost. Stammering, Madam, there's a madam outside. I straightened my posture and told him to bring the person in. I dismissed the servants. After Shu Yian came in, I lowered the hood, lifting my chin high with disdain. I will be picked up by my husband soon. You should prepare to leave the Shen residence. I looked at her with confusion. She curled her lips. Yesterday the Dali temple sent people to seize Chen Shi, saying he was suspected of attempting to assassinate a government messenger. Her eyes sparkled with delight, and she covered her mouth with a smile. My husband is jealous but so tactful. He just can't stand having another man near me, although he hasn't come to fetch me yet. I know he's waiting for me to bow to him, to apologize, and then we'll be happily together. Shu Yian glanced me up and down. Then it's none of your business. I tried to remind her. The magistrate has never been one to use his power for personal gain. Could there be some misunderstanding here? She murmured softly. That's why it proves he has lost his mind for me. He loves me so deeply that he would use his power. After saying that, she seemed to have remembered something, and she looked at me coldly with a wary gaze. You don't want him to be jealous of me, do you? No, it's just that adults won't deceive, for no reason. Quiet. She stood up and pointed at my face. Don't act like a master for a few days and then forget your place. You're nothing but a lowly maid my mother left behind. Once a lowly maid, you can never be respectable. I stayed silent. Shu Yian waited a long time with no response and flinched. Feiyun, surely she hasn't really got any notions, has she? She laughed. Why don't you look in a mirror from head to toe and see where you could possibly match Zhaoyuan? Even if you pinned a phoenix feather on yourself, you'd still be a hill partridgey. What fantasy are you dreaming? Wake up. You exist to serve me. You did well this time. No other woman popped up around him. When I return, tell me what you want and I'll make sure to send you off properly. She paced to my side. However, if you don't behave, I have plenty of ways to make your life worse than death. I tilted my head up and looked her in the eye. Like the method of slandering Luo Sheng for molesting you. Shu Yian paused briefly, As if she couldn't even remember who Luo Sheng was, she frowned and thought for a moment. Oh, that poor scholar lodging in our house. A blind thing, he amused you so, yet shrinks away from me. People like that are just offensive to look at. I clenched my hands. Because he offends you, you have to ruin his reputation and cripple him. She blinked. Crippling him was father's order. What's that got to do with me? She touched my face. Honestly, you should be thanking me. What future could you have with a penniless scholar? Not like now. As the wife of an official for so many years, haven't I been good to you? I smiled at her, echoing her words. Yes, miss. You're the one who treats me well. Without your decision, I wouldn't have become Madame Shen, nor would I have won Zhao Yuan's affection. It's just, Shu Yian's expression changed in an instant. I lowered my eyes in embarrassment. Now he won't let me leave the Shen residence. What should I do, miss? 24. Shu Yian's chest rose and fell heavily. Without a word, she lifted her hand in a raised motion, but the slap did not fall. Shen Zhaoyuan grabbed her wrist, flung it outward, and Shu Yian stumbled away from me. When the gatehouse announced her arrival, I had someone fetch Shen Zhaoyuan. Besides Shen Zhaoyuan, they also went to inform the legitimate mother. Now Shen Zhaoyuan has rushed back. The legitimate mother hasn't come yet. Seeing the person who arrived, Shu Yian's eyes reddened. You pushed me away for Fei Yun. Shen Zhaoyuan stood by my side. She is my wife. What's wrong with protecting her? Shu Yian choked with emotion. I am your wife. She is just a later arrival. Shen Zhaoyuan remained unmoved. You are Chen Shi's wife, and now your husband has admitted that he intended to stab me at the temple fair but failed. Rather than come here and flaunt your power, you should go to prison and concern him there. Shu Yian relaxed instead. I know, you're jealous, aren't you? I have nothing with him. I only asked him to shelter me for a while, and it was he who insisted on showing concern for me. I never responded to him. In my heart, there is only you. Shen Zhaoyuan was a bit incredulous. He was willing to kill for you. And that's all you want to say? Shu Yian listened, bewildered. What? He really tried to stab you? I only told him I was waiting for you to come pick me up and take me home. I only said that, and that you had been a bit neglectful before. How could he dare lay a hand on you? He said that if I died, you wouldn't be trapped in the past and could focus on continuing life with him. After Shen Zhaoyuan finished, Shu Yian grew angry. Who does he think he is? How dare he try to harm you? And even fancy me? Her heart had long been sick. The act of being a normal person she had kept up for so long in front of Shen Zhaoyuan could no longer be hidden. Shen Zhaoyuan was silent for a long time, watching her quietly for a while. The look of disappointment in his eyes grew increasingly obvious. Shu Yian was a little panicked and helpless. Husband, why are you looking at me like that? Don't look at me like that. We've been apart for so long, don't you miss me? At that moment the footman came over and reported to me, Madam, Mrs. Shu of the Shu household did not come. She said she only had one daughter, who has already passed away. This caller must have found out from somewhere. Because she resembles the late madam, she wants to impersonate her to climb into a higher position. We should just drive her out. 25. The legitimate mother abandoned them so decisively. She didn't even spare a glance. Shu Yian's face went deathly pale. What do you mean? I spoke in confusion. How could madam possibly fail to recognize the young lady? Shut up, Shu Yian shouted at me. She was distraught. No, it shouldn't be like this. My husband should be glad I've come back. How could my mother ever abandon me? Shen Zhaoyuan let out a breath. Take her away. Don't let her come near the Shen household, and don't let her near madam and miss. The errand boy had just passed by when Shu Yian glared at him. How dare you touch me? I am the mother of Chang'e. She seemed to have caught hold of a glimmer of hope. Where is Chang'e? Send for Chang'e to come see me. She would not abandon her own mother. I'm staying. I'll take care of my daughter myself. I thought of what Chang'e told me that night. I said, you're not suitable to see Chang'e right now. Hearing the sound, Shu Yian noticed me. His eyes flashed as realization dawned. It's you. All of this is because of you. She found the source and excitedly said to Shen Zhaoyuan, my husband, this is all Fei Yun's scheme. She induced me to fake my death and leave you, and she took the position of matriarch of the Shen family. I looked helpless and melancholic. Miss, Shu Yian hated me fiercely. You still pretend, if it Weren't for you making me read those romance scripts back then, would I have thought of faking death? Husband, she has planned this for a long time. She has always coveted you. Enough. Shen Zhaoyuan closed his eyes and exhaled deeply. Xu Yian believed that Shen Zhaoyuan had fallen for her words, and could not wait to show a smile. I pulled out the parting document I carried with me. Sir, the young lady has returned. Then, as we said on our wedding night, let me leave now. Shen Zhaoyuan did not respond to me, but he looked at Xu Yian coldly. I mean, you've had enough. Xu Yian was both confused and sad. It's all hers. On the day I married her into the family, she and I made an agreement. She wanted to leave, but I wouldn't let her. She stayed only to take care of Chang'e, and has always been distant and avoiding me. Do you think she pines for me? Shen Zhaoyuan tugged at the corner of his mouth. I actually, truly wish she had even a bit of that kind of feeling. 25 As his words fell, Xu Yian froze and burst into tears. What did you say? You fell for her. Didn't you say you'd only ever love me? Didn't you promise you'd never forget me? Xu Yian, heartbroken, accused. Tell me, didn't you promise me? How could you fall in love with someone else? She pointed at me. And what a disgraceful wretch like this. Do you know, her mother crawled into my father's bed trying to rise in status, secretly gave birth to her. It was out of my mother's kindness that her mother was spared, and she was taken in and raised by us. She survives because of my existence. How could you love a servant girl who waits on me? She is inferior to me in every way. Shen Zhaoyuan's expression grew even colder. While she was lost in her own world, she used to wash my feet, empty the chamber pot, do all kinds of menial tasks since she was a child. A servant's life like that, what do you see in her? She even liked someone else. Her feelings for you are not as pure as mine. That poor scholar only gave her a few broken pills and she wanted to throw herself at him, and it was I who plotted so that that man died at the mass grave, otherwise she would have eloped long ago. I saved her again and again. How did she repay me? You actually fall for such an ungrateful, backbiting wretch. A buzzing filled my ears. He died. Xu Yian looked at me with an indescribable smile, as if he had finally found my weak spot. Of course, with his hands and feet broken, no one would take care of him. He couldn't even crawl. That night it poured. Wherever he was dumped, that's where he died. It was the servants who rolled him in a straw mat and threw him into the pauper's burial ground. You were ill those days, lying down the whole time. Wasn't I worried your condition would worsen? So I told you he'd been carried away. A few days before, Luo Sheng teased her. Because the foot-washing water I poured for her was too hot, she made me kneel in the yard and stand in the rain all night. I ran a fever and was delirious, lying in bed in a daze for 3 days. When I woke up, I heard that Luo Sheng had been punished by his father, his hands and feet broken and thrown out of the household for teasing the young mistress. I wanted to go out and look, but I couldn't even leave the inner courtyard. All the maids and handmaidens were the eyes of my stepmother and Xu Yian. I kept telling myself there was still a way out for Luo Sheng, convincing myself he had been rescued by someone. I stepped out from behind Shen Zhaoyuan and, using all my strength, slapped her. Someone who has worked for years is much stronger than someone pampered and coddled like her. This made her fall to the ground at once. She clutched the slapped side of her face, unable to react. I pinned her shoulders down and slapped her again and again. She frantically pushed at me, screaming. I lost all my senses, grabbed her by the hair, and slammed her head into the ground. Beat her to death, beat her to death, beat her to death. Someone came over and grabbed me, shouting my name desperately in my ear. Feiyun, Feiyun. Shen Zhaoyuan held me tightly, trapping my hands. I glared viciously at Xu Yian. Feiyun, wake up, look at me, he's dead. She got him killed. The gloom of 13 years has returned to hang over me. 26. Maidservants like mothers were all sent out of the residence by the legitimate madam. If a child was born, the child would be brought back. If it was a boy, he would be given to her son to play with. If it was a girl, she would be handed over to her daughter. Father never said no. There were 4 or 5 children like that. Those with a bit of defiance later all died, regardless of gender. I survived, only I survived, because I was the most obedient. I don't know if father couldn't bear to watch his children die one after another, but after that, no new children ever appeared. They treat me like a well-trained dog. raising me with a slap and then a jujube. My hunger isn't hunger, my pain isn't pain, it's all what someone like me is supposed to go through. As long as I behave well, I can eat my fill, and I won't be in pain. I spent 13 years like this until one day, I was assigned to guard the gate of the inner courtyard. A scholar stood far off in the outer courtyard and tossed a bundle of something to me. He said, "Your lips are all pale. Do you want to eat something? These dumplings are very tasty. Have a try." I said I was a lowly maid and could not eat anything given by others. He asked me, surprised, "Young lady, in your situation you still remain virtuous, neither stealing nor taking by force, even refusing charity. Your character is noble. How can you be lowly?" For the first time someone told me I was not lowly, and just like that, my day dawned. The dumplings in the paper packet were no longer warm. They carried a chill. He smiled as he said, "Do you think I'm right? If you do, then accept these dumplings as a way to help this young scholar accumulate some merit." I stared at the food in my hands, my mind foggy, until a direction finally came. I reached into the paper bag, grabbed a handful of dumplings, and stuffed them into my mouth. They smelled wonderful. My mouth and my heart were filled to the brim with flavor. When I met Luo Sheng, he was very proper, even though I was just a lowly maid. He never looked me directly in the face. He brought me food and told me about the world outside. He encouraged me not to be imprisoned by my present hardship. One day I would be able to walk out of it. I quietly began to learn everything Xu Yian had learned, served her with increasing devotion, and audited everything her husband taught her. My mind, clogged with silt, began to drain it away and make room for new things. Maybe one day, I can go see the world outside too. Then Xu Yian asked me, "Feiyun, you seem to have been very happy lately." Lo Sheng was discovered. Later Xu Yian told me, "A lecher who stays in my house and isn't behaving himself, it's a mercy we didn't kill him." "Feiyun, you silly girl, don't let him fool you." His heart roared inside him, insisting that he was not that kind of person. There was almost blood in my throat. I resisted the urge to vomit, and gratefully, with a lingering fear, thanked Xu Yian. "Thanks to Miss, I, the servant, will follow you for life." I more earnestly held her in my hands, treating her as an immortal, a heaven above, and nothing beneath. She liked me more and more, because in her eyes I seemed stupid. I did everything I could for her, and everything I said to her was my true heart. She is relaxed and genuine in front of me. When the legitimate wife chose a husband for her, she eliminated one candidate after another, and finally settled on Shen Jiaoyuan. I can leave the Shu residence and go somewhere else, a place unfamiliar to Xu Yian, a place beyond the legitimate wife's control. I waited for my chance. 27. "You dare hit me? Do you not want your mother to live?" Xu Yian snapped back to his senses and roared at me. The concubine mother's household servants who were sent out of the residence were dispersed and placed elsewhere. Those stationed at the village for 2 or 3 months without children were resold. Those who have children will have them carried back to the Shu family to be raised, while the person stays on the village farm. The legitimate wife would never directly abort the child, but she would also never allow the father's bloodline any chance to later find Xu Jiao and threaten her children's position. Let the child see his mother once every 5 years. A mother should behave herself, and a child should be well behaved too. Seeing what happened to those children, the other people in the household now avoid the master whenever they can. The maids, upon seeing father, wish they could walk around him. With not a trace of wishful thinking left, the legitimate mother finally had some peace. Father, on the other hand, felt guilty that the legitimate mother was so magnanimous as to raise his children for him. Why didn't the child make it? That just means the child had bad fate and no blessing in this household. Only the children born from the legitimate wife are blessed. And then there's me, bit dull, sure, but honest and blessed. I am not a base person, I am a blessed one. Xu Yian used my mother to threaten me. She still thinks I'm a fool and an idiot. Long before, when she married in and entrusted the Shen family affairs to me, my hand slowly reached toward the manor where my mother was kept. Over the years, 70% of that manor's inhabitants have become mine. She doesn't need to know this. I shoved Shen Jiaoyuan hard and turned to kneel before him. "My lord, please save my mother. She's waiting for me to leave the manor." My knees had only bent halfway when Shen Jiaoyuan stopped me. He grabbed my arm and stared at my face. The person you want to see outside the house is your mother. Yes, it's my mother, whom I have only seen 4 times in my life up to now, in fact. She does not want to see me. Every time I go to her, she silently keeps to her work, hands me a parcel, and sends me away. My biological father ruined her, and my existence has taken away her freedom, but I want to see her, to see from afar that she's living well, and that's enough. I struggled to kneel to Shen Jiaoyuan, and he pressed me into his arms. I'll save mother. Don't worry, that's good. The collapse of a house begins with the first crack. 28 Shu family prevents people from seeing the light and dies. I want to make their deaths known to all. I have no power, so I wait. Shu Yian's marriage was the first opportunity one seized. I followed her out of that cage. Shen Jiaoyuan's smooth rise in the officialdom was my second opportunity, but I could not use it recklessly. He was an official, and so was my father. The people could not win against officials. Officials would protect each other, and there was this kinship by marriage until I was sure Shen Jiaoyuan would stand with me. I could not reveal myself. I dared not fight to the death. If I died, they could still escape. I had to succeed in one attempt. Shu Yian's pathological concern for Shen Jiaoyuan was my third opportunity. I seized the first and the third opportunities. Now, it's time to use the second chance. Right before Shu Yian's eyes, Shen Jiaoyuan aches for me. Will her heart hurt the way mine did when I learned Luo Sheng's limbs were broken? I turned my head to look at Shu Yian. Her eyes reflected the sight of Shen Jiaoyuan holding me. Her heart broke. Let her go. How can you hold her? She was shouting. I too was collapsing, trembling all over in Shen Jiaoyuan's arms. He carried me in his arms and ordered the servant, throw that madwoman back to the Shu family. 29 I clutched Shen Jiaoyuan's lapel, gasping for breath. I'm in so much pain right now. The more I hate the Shu family, the more pitiful I am in front of Shen Jiaoyuan. My stepmother has father wrapped around her finger, and Shu Yian has learned a great deal from her. However, she was too conceited. She believed her approach would be better than the legitimate wife's and that she should immediately receive the passionate love she imagined. But I have humbly observed the legitimate wife for many years. To win a man's heart, you must know when to grasp and when to let go. Too much or too little won't do. You must seem present yet elusive, like a feather, falling one by one onto his heart. Feathers are very light. When they fall, he only feels a slight itch, and if he ignores it, it passes. But when they accumulate to a certain moment, he suddenly realizes that his heart has already been stuffed full of feathers. Just like now, Shen Jiaoyuan looks at me with aching tenderness. I don't know if he realizes his eyes have gone red. A person's pity has limits. Use too much, the pity diminishes and contempt grows. That was the former Shen Jiaoyuan toward Shu Yian, and I have been slowly, tranquilly flowing into his heart. By today, his feelings erupted. My voice trembled. Sir Jiaoyuan, I don't want you to stay with me. Go save my mother quickly. Miss and Madam will kill her. In all these years, I've only seen her 4 times. I really don't want to lose her. As I said this, my hand kept gripping him tightly, as if I desperately needed him and could not do without him. Shen Jiaoyuan laid me on the bed, holding my hand. All right, I'll send someone to bring mother-in-law back. Feiyun, don't be afraid. I shook my head, on the brink of collapse. No, father has great abilities. Even though he couldn't read, he still became an official. Mother can't escape what's in her hands. And madam, I just hit the young miss. I actually hit the young miss. I was in a panic. A worthless slave like me, actually laid hands on the young mistress. I'm going to be beaten to death, just like them. Shen Jiaoyuan frowned and asked. I let go of Shen Jiaoyuan and curled myself into the far corner of the bed, hugging my knees. I'm going to die. 2. Shen Jiaoyuan climbed onto the bed to reach for me, but I screamed and dodged away. He instantly soothed me softly. Okay, I won't touch you. Feiyun, don't be afraid. You're in our home now. No one will let you die. I sobbed. I can't escape either. I'll be like them. I'll die too. It's our fate. Shen Jiaoyuan looked at me deeply, then stood up and left the room. The door was closed again. I gradually calmed down, gazing at the doorway, and it felt like I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Thump, thump, thump. The Shu family's main gate couldn't be opened no matter what. The Shen household servants looked helplessly at the tightly shut gate and at Shu Yian, who looked like a withered corpse. The gatekeeper inside the gate said helplessly, "This really isn't our eldest miss. Everyone knows our eldest miss was buried long ago," Madam said. "If there are any more people like this, they can be driven out or handed to the authorities. It's nothing to do with the Shu family." Shu Yian staggered forward in a daze, his palm beating on the gate. "Open the door. Father, mother, brother, it's me, Yian. I'm back. Please open the door. I only have you now. My husband has changed his heart. He doesn't want me anymore." 30. A few pedestrians gathered in twos and threes outside the Shu residence to watch the commotion, pointing at Shu Yian and whispering if she had her original appearance, she might indeed have aroused suspicion, but her face was so swollen now that it was unrecognizable. Anyone who saw her would think she was a fool trying to claim kinship, pretending to be a dead person, and not very bright at that. "Daughter, it's really Yian. I've returned to the capital." The two servants from the Shun residence exchanged a look, discussed it briefly, and dumped Shu Yian at the Shu family's doorstep before leaving. Not long after they left, the door opened, and a basin of dirty water was thrown out, dousing Shu Yian from head to toe. "Madwoman, go away. This isn't the place for you to act foolish and make a scene." Shu Yian's eyes had been splashed into stupidity. A carriage stopped at the entrance. The doorman pushed her aside to greet the young man getting out of the carriage. He noticed Shu Yian by the door and, with disgust, covered his nose. Shu Yian's eyes were injured. He lunged at him. "How can you look at me like that? I'm your sister." Shu Yikang turned aside to dodge. "What beggar dares to pretend to be my sister?" He pointed at the gatekeeper. "Go, beat her for me, make her never come back, and send her straight to see my sister." The club the gatekeeper was holding came down on Shu Yian. "I really am your sister." What she got in return was an even colder command. "She can still talk. Have you not eaten the Shu family's food?" To show their loyalty, the gatekeepers struck even harder. Shu Yian couldn't bear it any longer and fled in a sorry state. Rumors spread rapidly. A girl stubbornly insisted she was the Shu family's eldest daughter who died young, stirring up the whole family's grief for her own gain. Shu Yian became a detestable villain and lunatic. No one believed her. 31. Shen Zhaoyuan called a doctor to prescribe me a sedative. I gradually calmed down. He tried to communicate with me. "Your mother-in-law's whereabouts are being deliberately hidden, but you don't need to worry. I've already assigned people to monitor the Shu family's comings and goings. If they go to find your mother-in-law, I will definitely know." "Feiyun, the 4 times you saw her before, were they all in the same place?" I nodded. "They were in the same place, but I don't know the route. Every time I went to see my mother my eyes were covered. The first 2 times I really didn't know, but the 3rd time I went, I kept track in my head of the carriage's turns and the approximate distance, and the 4th time I double-checked. Later I sent people to search according to the map I gave, and after some time, they found where my mother was." I can't tell Shen Zhaoyuan outright. He has to uncover it himself. Shu Yian's affair turned into a joke, and I quietly added a few lines to the rumors. Besides Shu Yian being a madman, there was another possibility. The eldest Miss Shu back then never actually died. She disliked Shen Zhaoyuan, faked her death and eloped with someone. The Shu family, to protect their reputation, disowned their biological daughter with people gossiping wildly. Any possibility could exist. Now that Shu Yian couldn't return to the Shu household and had nowhere else to go, she went back to Chen's tavern. The tavern that Chen Shi single-handedly ran was doing well, and more than a few relatives were green with envy. After he was imprisoned, I went to inform his relatives, and several groups swarmed in to lay claim to the tavern. As soon as Shu Yian stepped inside, she was driven out as a jinx. Now she's penniless and reeks to high heaven. The Shu family wouldn't let her near, so she returned to the gates of the Shun residence, crying miserably and calling out for Shen Zhaoyuan and Chang'e. The Shun family's gatekeepers didn't rough her up the way the Shu family did. I know that Shen Zhaoyuan still remembers the 4 years of marriage he had with Shu Yian, and that she is still Chang'e's birth mother. I gave him a way out. He ordered the servants to bring Shu Yian into the residence and keep her locked in the courtyard. Everyone in the household must watch her, and she must not be allowed to come into contact with Chang'e. Her mind has already gone off the rails, and in the hospital she has not stopped spewing abuse at me. Shen Zhaoyuan doesn't want her. She is heartbroken. But she doesn't blame him. Her parents and younger brother don't acknowledge her. She is sad, but she doesn't blame them. Only I, someone she never thought much of, am living better than she is, and now I can even pity her. She can't accept that. I went to see her. When she saw me, she actually quieted down. She sat up straight, more like a proper young lady than ever. I sat across from her, and she didn't spare me a single glance. I pushed the letter from my stepmother toward her. From my stepmother. Shu Yian didn't move at first. I waited for her to break, and she couldn't help but open the letter to read. The more she read, the quieter she became, staring blankly for a long time, finally half smiling, half crying. So I'm the calamity, aren't I? The letter was from my stepmother to me, saying that if I wanted my mother to be safe, I must protect the Shu and Shen families. She claimed to have mercy and couldn't act herself, so she ordered me to eliminate the calamity without leaving a trace. I said to Shu Yian, 10 fingers are not all the same length. People's hearts are naturally biased. Miss, do not blame madam. She was thinking of the whole Shu family. Although I hate you for causing Luo Sheng's tragic death, you were not the one who gave the direct order. I have not forgotten the kindness you once showed me, so I will help you one last time. Miss, leave the capital and never return. She was silent. After a long while, she said, let me see Chang'e one more time. I did not answer. She closed her eyes and whispered, I beg you, just let me see her from afar. 32 Chang'e is in the garden chasing butterflies. Shu Yian is under the corridor, her gaze passing over the rockery and flowerbed. Watching Chang'e from afar, she asked me, Chang'e probably doesn't like me, right? She wasn't waiting for my answer, talking to herself. That's how it should be. I should have stopped liking my mother long ago. All she sees is my brother. What am I, just a thing? Shu Yian stared blankly, and when he saw Chang'e stagger, his body instinctively tensed. The wet nurse caught Chang'e in time. Shu Yian exhaled, turned to look at me, his eyes burning with fire. I'm leaving. She walked straight out of the mansion. He stepped out the main gate, crossed the street, walked up to the gate of the Dali temple, took out a drumstick, and struck the drum hard. I, a common woman, accuse Shu Songshan, registrar of the Ministry of Ceremonies, falsified credentials to buy an official post, embezzled and accepted bribes, beat to death a scholar who held official rank, abused the maidservants in the household. His wife Madame Ju allowed their son to torment the lower servants. Of his illegitimate children 3 sons and 3 daughters were born, 5 died, 1 survived. I, a common woman, accuse Shu Songshan, registrar of the Ministry of Ceremonies, falsified credentials to buy an official post, embezzled and accepted bribes, beat to death a scholar who held official rank, abused the maidservants in the household. His wife Madame Ju allowed their son to torment the lower servants. Of his illegitimate children 3 sons and 3 daughters were born, 5 died, 1 survived. I, a common woman, accuse Shu Songshan, registrar of the Ministry of Ceremonies, falsified credentials to buy an official post. She enumerated each of the Shu family's misdeeds, not even sparing herself. I listened, but my brow furrowed. Shu Songshan is guilty, and the 2 children of the legal wife are guilty. But what about the legal wife? She herself is spotless. The only fault one can name is indulging her children, and the rest are powers that belong to the matriarch. I pondered on my own without haste. When the Shu family collapses, where could she possibly run to? I watched Shu Yan beating the drum from behind. Her voice grew louder and louder, and that frenzy returned to her. After being abandoned, her choice is to go down with the ship. It suits her temperament. She can't stand provocation and is easily led. Originally, I hadn't planned this ending for her. It was to have her, once Shen Jiaoyuan uncovered everything, suffer cold neglect, be abandoned and reviled, and then be reunited with the Shu family in prison. But when I saw her injured, wandering the streets in a daze, I felt it still wasn't enough. Just one final spark, a raging blaze that engulfs the entire Shu family, a fire lit by their own hands, burning their whole family to ashes. That's the real satisfaction. Who could know better than they do what sins they've committed? So, I forged that letter, destroy the last shred of attachment in Xuani's heart for her mother, awaken the hatred she has deliberately ignored for years. I'm not afraid she'll bring up that letter. A hatred that burns hotter and hotter has consumed all her trust in her legitimate mother, so what if the legitimate mother denies it? Likewise, I've already burned that letter. 33 A biological daughter who came back from the dead is suing her own parents. The case has drawn widespread attention. Xu Yian was immediately taken into custody, and Xu Songshan, frantic like an ant on a hot pan, came to the Shen family to beg me. Your sister has gone mad. Hurry and get Zhao Yuan to help clear me of guilt. I replied carelessly. Father, don't be afraid. The innocent need no defense. His face was greener than his innocence. The men who came to arrest him chased him to the Shun residence and took Xu Songshan away right in front of me. He craned his neck and shouted at me, "Call Zhao Yuan to save me." When Shen Zhaoyuan returned home, I wept in front of him and said, "Although father never showed me affection, he is after all my father." Shen Zhaoyuan said nothing. Judging from his past, he placed great importance on his official career. If this case is handled well, it will be him sacrificing family for righteousness, impartial and unflinching, removing harm for the people. But I still have to test him. Fortunately, he patted my shoulder lightly. "Feiyun, he doesn't deserve to be a father." A breath slipped out quietly, then he changed the subject. "Your mother-in-law has been found and is on her way back." My heart skipped a beat, and the memory of the last time I saw my mother flashed through my mind, her face so cold and indifferent. My eyes suddenly warmed. Tears rolling down, I turned instinctively and said, I won't see her." Shen Zhaoyuan gently turned me back by the shoulder. "Feiyun, your mother-in-law misses you very much. Reason tells me not to go. The Shu family is finally about to fall, and mother will soon be free. Why would she want to see a daughter who carries Xu Songshan's blood? But I really want to see mother. I really want to see her. I'll just take a look from afar." Mother was taken into the residence by Shen Zhaoyuan. She seemed to have grown many white hairs, holding a piece of clothing in her hands, mending it under the light. It felt like nails had grown into my feet, pinning me to the spot. I gazed through the window with near-greedy longing, tracing my mother's likeness over and over with my eyes. This time there was no time limit, no one watching. I can relax and look at my mother as much as I like. As I look and look, my vision blurs, and I can no longer see my mother's face clearly. Clutching my clothes, I want to tell her that the clothes she made for me finally fit me. The clothes she made according to her idea were always loose and baggy on me. When she sees me wearing ill-fitting clothes, she gets irritated, turns her head aside, and tells me to leave. This year, I've been eating properly, and the last set of clothes she made for me finally fits. I've grown into the kind of daughter she had imagined. It seems the mother inside the room sensed it and lifted her head in my direction. I instinctively dodged, wiped away my tears, and walked out. A voice came from behind me. "Feiyun, 34. The day I was brought back to the Shu family, the clouds on the horizon were beautiful." Xu Songshan casually named me Scarlet Cloud. Mother never calls me by my name. She always refers to me as you. "You're here. Go on. You are alive." This is the first time she called my name. I stopped in my tracks, unable to control myself as I turned and ran into the house, into her embrace, holding on to her tightly. "Mother." The person in the crook of my arm was so soft, she gently patted my back. "Mother is here." She called herself mother to me for the first time. She held me. "From now on the two of us, mother and daughter, won't have to be separated. No one will bully us anymore, my good little one. From now on you have mother to love you." Today I sounded my first cry as a baby, crying like that non-stop, until my head was spinning and I'd shed all my tears, feeling my mother's comfort, then falling asleep in her arms. A peace and happiness like never before. I slept the best sleep of my life. 35 When the Shu family confronted each other in court, Shen Zhaoyuan recused himself and did not hear the case. He handed all the witnesses and evidence he had found over to the assistant minister of the Court of Judicature and Revision. "If you've done something, you'll leave traces." The Shu household servants confessed one after another. How Xu Yian made his sister kneel in punishment and take the blows of the board. How Xu Yikang ordered that his brother be whipped. Curious about how long a person can hold their breath in water, and how long one can go without relieving oneself. My mother and the living maid were brought before the court, And with her own mouth she identified how Shu Songshan used drunkenness to insult and how he used excuses to shirk responsibility. A maid even touched a pillar and died on the spot. The footman said that when Shu Songshan ordered Luo Sheng to be thrown onto the mass grave, Luo Sheng actually still had faint breath at that time, yet was treated as dead and thrown away. Old evidence was dug up one piece at a time and spread out. Before Shu Songshan, his face went ashen. Like a demon he glared at Shu Yian, who was kneeling but still holding his head high. He crawled over on his knees and grabbed Shu Yian by the throat. "You beast! How have I wronged you for you to do this to your own father?" Although the constables immediately pulled him away, red marks remained on Shu Yian's neck. She smiled and said, "We're family. Of course we should be harmonious and happy." The legal mother glanced coldly over, even at a moment like this. She remained unflappable, as composed as an outsider. "I really regret giving birth to you." Shu Yian, who had just had her throat grabbed, was able to laugh, but the legal mother's words left her stunned. She wiped away her tears and shot back fiercely. "I'm the one who regrets letting you be my mother. It would be better to have been born into an ordinary family than to be your daughter. When you used my body to compete for father's favor, you probably didn't regret giving birth to me after all. You weren't willing to risk using your son." The rightful mother did not even look at her, returning a cold sneer. Shu Yian was instantly angered. She roared at her rightful mother, "Why don't you love me? Why?" Shu Yikang stopped her. "Sister, you faked death or mother helped. How can you say she doesn't love you?" Shu Yian immediately rebuts, "That's because I told someone to deliver the letter to her only the day after my death. It's not that she wants to help me, she's afraid I'll cause trouble and burden the Shu family. She simply doesn't love me," she screamed hoarsely, and her stepmother replied lightly, "Yes, you're right, I simply don't love you." Shu Yian's voice abruptly stopped, her eyes went vacant, and she couldn't utter a word. The deputy minister of the Court of Judicial Review pronounced Shu Songshan guilty of dereliction of duty, accepting bribes, abusing maids, and caning to death those with merit and rank, stripped of office, family property seized, castration imposed, and to be executed after the autumn. Shu Yian and Shu Yikang brutally murdered their biological younger siblings, showing no humanity. They are to be immediately detained and executed after the autumn. Zhu Jilan failed to raise her child properly, allowing her son to commit murder. She is ashamed to be a mother. Though she may be spared the death penalty, she cannot escape the punishment of a living person. 30 strokes with the cane, accompanied by head shaving and public exposure at Kaishaku Market for a year. There must be no mistakes. Carry out the sentence immediately. 36. Shu Songshan was dragged to the prison to be punished. Before being taken away, he was still shouting for Shen Jiaoyuan to save him. Zhu Jilan received the cane sentence in the hall, gritting her teeth and refusing to make a sound, when the executioner stepped forward with scissors to undo her hair knot. She flinched away in panic, pressed down, tufts of hair came away, and her sobs became harder and harder to stifle. Shu Yian watched his mother's dignity stripped away, dazed and expressionless. No pity, no venting of anger, only a dead, still silence. The Shu family's case caused quite a stir in the capital for a while. A few days ago many people went to Kaishaku to see Zhu Jilan. "I gave the little beggar money," and he pointed at Zhu Jilan in the crowd and sneered. "So this is that black-hearted madam of the Shu family. Her head sure is shiny. A child born to a concubine isn't considered a child. How heartless. She colluded with her husband, serves her right. She got what she deserved." Zhu Jilan's body swayed. She knelt on the ground, burying her face deep. As time went by, facing everyone's mockery, she grew increasingly numb. Few people spared her a second glance in the second month. She took her own life in prison. "I went to the prison to visit the ones who were left." Shu Songshan hunched over, reeking, looking wretched, yet I felt no sense of vindication. No punishment could ever make up for the evil he had done. "I went to see Shu Yian as well." She sat blankly, hugging a bundle of straw, humming a nursery rhyme. I asked her, "Who are you singing to?" She said, "Sure, mother is singing to me." After saying that, she started singing again. I looked at her for a long moment, said nothing more, and turned to leave, hearing a voice from behind. "Just think of it as if Chang'e doesn't have me as a mother." 36 Mother and Chang'e get along quite well. She made clothes for me, and made clothes for Chang'e, waiting for the sentence of the Shu family at the moment. Their heads fell to the ground. The stone in my heart vanished in an instant. I looked at the blood all over the ground, unable to suppress the smile on my face. I turned my head and found Shen Zhaoyuan staring at me inquisitively. I didn't rein in my smile and gave him an even bigger one. He gently lifted the corner of his mouth, something dark lurking in his eyes. He was getting suspicious, but so what? The Shu family's sentence was handed down right under his nose. Can those 3 severed heads possibly be put back on? I happily returned to the residence, humming a tune, using the last of my restraint to keep myself from leaping up and cheering. Back in the room, Shen Zhaoyuan suddenly spoke. Feiyun, what role did you play in all this? I stopped, and the tumult in my chest calmed in an instant. His voice was flat, as if saying, the weather is nice today. When we privately interrogated in the prison, Shu Yian said you showed her a letter from the Zhu family to you. The Zhu family denied it outright, and Shu Yian couldn't produce the letter either, but she was convinced the Zhu family was lying. That letter does exist, and it really wasn't written by the Zhu family, right? I shook my head in puzzlement. What message? Zhaoyuan, what are you talking about? Shen Zhaoyuan sighed softly. You can trust me, Feiyun. I laughed tearfully. I really don't know what you're talking about. He looked at me steadily. I saved this message without telling Shaoqing. You can let down some of your defenses with me. He walked over and gently took my hand. We're husband and wife. It's okay if you use me. I know you suffered in the past, and my heart aches for you. I stopped pretending to be foolish and was silent for a moment. Shen Zhaoyuan, I have never had feelings for you from beginning to end. He forced a couple of laughs. Are you still thinking about Luo Sheng? He's already dead. Do you plan to remember him for the rest of your life? I thought for a moment, then nodded. I will remember him for the rest of my life. He squeezed my hand tighter. I continued, you cannot understand what he means to me. Mother gave me life, but he made me truly begin to be a person. I thought of the servant's testimony in court when he was thrown away. Luo Sheng still had faint breath. In other words, there's still a chance he's alive. I'll find a way to look for him. Shen Zhaoyuan's expression was indescribable for a moment. I lowered my eyes and pulled my hand back. You don't need to compare yourself to him. You two mean different things to me. Once I saw Shu Yian be so desperate over Shen Zhaoyuan that I thought I felt the same about Luo Sheng, but later I realized I was wrong. Possessiveness is indispensable in romantic love, just like Shu Yian toward Shen Zhaoyuan, Shu Songzhan toward Zhu Zhilan, but I don't have that for Luo Sheng. I don't want to possess him. I sincerely hope he can live a smooth, peaceful life. A faint light sparked in Shen Zhaoyuan's eyes. I matter to you. I looked into his eyes. Yes, you're my benefactor, and also my blade, nothing more. 37 After that conversation, he stopped coming home at night, busy with the Dali temple. As the weather turned cold, Mother made a padded jacket for Chang'e. Chang'e loved it, feeling cozy and warm, and wanted to go fly kites. Everyone stopped her, afraid she would catch a chill. Chang'e had no choice but to give up. She lay on the table, watching Mother embroider. I sat on the other side, watching them, wanting to speak but holding back. I smoothed the silk thread in my hand, wondering what I should do. I shouldn't continue occupying the position of Shen Zhaoyuan's wife. She may be better off staying young. If I leave, what will she do? And would Mother be willing to give up this stable life and come with me if I stay? I still can't face Shen Zhaoyuan's feelings. The more I tried to untangle the threads, the more they got snarled. Mother tapped my head, took the thread from my hands, and said, "You're only making a mess." I pressed my lips together, not noticing that Chang'e was looking at me. Suddenly, she said, "Aunt, you said Chang'e is very smart." I paused for a moment and answered instinctively, "Yes." She pouted, sounding a bit unwilling. "I've already learned how to let go of the kite." I didn't understand why she said that. She stared into my eyes and said, "Once a kite finishes its mission, it can fly away to wherever it wants to go." A spark flashed in my mind. What is the mission? One's mission is what one must do. Then Chang'e's mission is to fly kites. Now Chang'e said, "Aunt, Chang'e's mission is to fly kites." I looked at Chang'e's earnest smiling face, gently pinched it, my chest burning, and could only let out a breathy sound. Thank you, Changi. In the end, I still took out that divorce papers. Shen Zhaoyuan asked me to give him one night to think it over, and in the morning he had me go with him to the Yamen after. The household registrar finished the record. I divorced him. On the way back to the Shen residence, he said to me, "Your past has been too bitter. I hope everything goes smoothly for you from now on." Mother and I left the Shen residence. We carried the dowry that Shu family gave me when I got married. To show how highly he valued Shen Zhaoyuan, the dowry he gave me was not small. I did not leave the capital. Among the dowry there were 2 shops, and I bought a house not far from the shops. Mother loved sewing, without having to work in the fields on the estate anymore. Her hands gradually became delicate, and the clothes she stitched grew ever more refined. I asked many people whether, 8 years ago, anyone had rescued a scholar with severed limbs from the mass grave. Changi would sometimes come to see us, and it wasn't unusual for him to stay many days in a row. Until Shen Zhaoyuan came over on his days off to take Changi back, I often shuttle between 2 shops, lingering where the world bustles with life. In my spare time, I watch the passing crowds, listen to their voices, and observe their expressions, vivid and natural. The evening clouds are beautiful. The afterglow outlines a halo around everyone. Amid the bustling crowd, I saw a blurred face. He walked over from the city gate, carrying a bag of paper-wrapped parcels. It seemed he saw me. He gave me a slight smile and silently said, "This is the world outside."